Hi, You're watching YouTube channel uh, for NATV and news and analysis for geoeconomics and geopolitical. We also have a sister uh, channel, which is called Global Conflicts by Syed Farooq Hussain, myself. If you like what you see, please share it and subscribe to both the channels as you see it. So share the video with us just for intro for every clip. Thank you. Now let's get on with what the next one is. And that is, we're going to focus on Iran. There's a lot of things happening, so we're going to reiterate some things which we have just found out and some things which are already there. I also encourage people to get on the chat room and do talk. When we get a question and answers, I promise to see what's being said on the chat room and respond to that. Okay. Now let's get back to some of the facts we know. As Trump is evacuating to Qatar base, looks like he may be ready to push the button. But before we go into that, let's talk about what is it in Iran which is happening. One, the Iranian economic collapse triggered the uprising, not vice versa. The economic collapse triggered the uprising. Now, what was that? The real crashed to 1.4 million per US dollar in December, with inflation hitting 42.5% annually. Ordinary Iranians watched their savings evaporate overnight. Not a pretty scene. So if you were putting your savings in a bank, I mean, it was gone, all right, or nothing left of it. What happened there in December, what began as a demonstration over bread and butter economics evolved into far deadlier. A direct challenge to the 45-year-old theocratic rule now grasping for air. Grasping the air, that's a Western terminology, trying to describe something which is more on a wish list than an actuality. I mean, the regime has a lot of backing. Still, they've got a lot of hardware. They've even reported that they have brought people from Syria, Lebanon, the Hezbollah guys, I mean, lethal commanders for repression, and also from Iraq, really deadly guys. They're very brave with defenseless people. They are very good at spreading terror around the neighborhoods. So they brought them over, and now they're patrolling the streets of Tehran. Not cute. Some of them speak Farsi, some of them don't. So it's kind of not nice to wake up one day and find out a bunch of thugs are running around your neighborhood and telling you what to do. Anyway, the human rights activists, which are called the Human Rights Activist News Agency, documented 2,600 deaths and 2,400 or so for protesters, and the rest being government affairs. This has recently risen to over 5,000. And some of this is also what the regime has admitted to. French, who have been very close and who harbored the original Khomeini, who came 49 years ago and overthrew the Shah, they have described this, their foreign minister, Mr. Jean-Noel Barrot, called it the most violent repression in Iran's recent history, contemporary history. And he says some of the victims shot at point blank range with automatics. So you're looking at people having little regard for human life. I guess theocratic rule breeds this kind of a mentality. Okay. The clock is ticking in the Middle East. In the span of 14 days, Iran's brutal crackdown on protesters has killed up to 5,000 people, and the deadliest since 1979 Islamic Revolution. The Islamic Revolution basically upended the Shah of Iran and he had to run. And that was also, Shah's rule was, for those who have forgotten those days, the repression police was called Savak. Savak was also a very, very deadly secret police. And they couldn't stave off all. Now, Iran judiciary is running on another thing. They're kind of more closer to the Ayatollahs in charge. They want to do fast-track trials. And there are people there demanding swift executions. About 18,000 protesters have been detained. And like, for example, one guy is a 26-year-old Irfan Sultani. He faces possible execution. And his family doesn't know if he'll live the morning. And Trump did give something. If some people are executed, we'll do this and we do that. Now, most people in Iran should realize he's a transactional guy. His eyes are not on saving Iranians. It's not to give you democracy. I think he's more eyeing the oil wealth of Iran. And I think probably the end game is Iran will not have any oil. Somebody else will have oil, and Trump will do the deal with him. So that's where they're heading to. There are a lot of dividends to be had with the if the present regime evaporates. The state television, however, a little bit more restraint, have denied plans for hanging, with judiciary messaging suggests otherwise. The clock is ticking. Let's see how it goes. On January 8th, Iranian authorities shut down the internet. No internet calls, no social media, no outside connection. Connectivity dropped to 1% of normal levels. I mean, it was gone. One time you could go on the internet and see things, next thing they were all gone. Probably because of the communication tool, coordination tool of the protesters. Starlink, what brought them all to life is Starlink satellite became lifelines. And within days, Iran began jamming GPS signals to block Starlink access, leading to packet loss of 80%. Now, what does that mean? It means if you're sending information over through the GPS, with their jamming, only 20% gets through. So if he said, meet you tomorrow at 8 a.m., what may come out at the end is meet you and nothing else, or it says 8 a.m., you don't know what for. So generally, repeatedly send the message and can be reconstructed. So not a cute way of communicating. Now, one of the reasons they're giving for this is the pictures and CDs and the rest coming in from Iran. The regime wants to get rid of any evidence to the contrary. Now, I can understand that, because if there is evidence of brutality and killing, I think they will be held accountable. Maybe not now. Sometime in the future, they will be held accountable. Okay, so that's what's going on. There was direct communication between Foreign Minister Abbas Arachi and the special U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. They were suspended. That was the last diplomatic bridge collapsed. When negotiations end, military options dominate the table. Trump had very important sources claiming killings had stopped, and where were they if diplomats were talking? Diplomats aren't talking, and Trump says killing has stopped. So it's kind of which is true. Anyway, now maybe their sources means you know who I'm talking about. So I'm not going to go there. Leave it alone. What is happening in the meantime? Trump is moving pieces on the chessboard. He's evacuating the largest military base in the Middle East, deploying warships to the Persian Gulf, and warning Tehran the help is on the way for its people. The question is whether conflict is coming. It's not if it's coming, it's when it's coming. And it won't be done to save the people or democracy or something like that. I don't think it's going to be done to bring in the Shah of Iran. If he comes, he comes. But I think the goals of the Israelis and the Americans would be in which state will they want to leave Iran after their military action is done. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on that too. Also, Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which we're talking about, had 10,000 American troops and forward command center for US CENTCOM. They began shedding personnel. So non-essential personnel are being removed out of harm's way. Britain had, as usual, 100 troops over there with some installation. And they're evacuating. It wasn't a secret, it was a message. They wanted to get the British troops out of line of fire or in the way. A source close to Trump said to independents is ready to push the button around describing potential strikes as surgical removal of the regime. Now, that would be one, but as we talked earlier in the ones, what looks like is also surgical removal during, starting towards the end of an overall bombing campaign lasting weeks, if not months. What they want to leave is not giving Iran any semblance of an administration which can enforce the will of an Iranian nation, country, of the state, Iranian state. They can't impose the will. If that's the case, I would like to get back to what I had the map earlier. I want you to look at the different nationalities involved here. Now, if you look at the northwest, it's all Turkish. If you look toward the southwest, it's mostly Arab-speaking and Balochis and Lur, it's a calm. If you look toward the northeast, it's mostly Pashtuns, and look towards the southeast, it's mostly Balochis. Now, out of the 90 million, only 50 million are Persian, and those mostly are towards Tehran and around that area. So the chances of Balkanization of Iran are very high. However, so now we bring you to the second point, and that is you should know that what the Gulf of Hormuz is, and I'm going to put that one back on. If you look at the circle here, that's the Gulf of Hormuz. Straits of Hormuz, sorry, I stand corrected. 20% of the world's oil passes through the Straits of Hormuz daily, roughly 20 million barrels. If Iran closes the strait or targets tankers, oil prices will spike, global supply chain will look like collapsing, and maybe a recession for some countries. But as Pakistan is a pivot for both China and America, and with our defense treaty with Saudi Arabia, I think there will be obligations to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think we are well equipped to make sure that doesn't happen. However, that's the reason Saudis, UAE, Turkey, American allies, basically they want to avoid so that the Gulf of Hormuz is not threatened. And the Saudi Arabians and the Qataris, the Bahrainis and the rest and the Omanis, they don't want to be a strike of the receiving end of Iranian missiles. Now, what is America doing? We just go back, I'll give you back where we were. America currently has ordered 2 aircraft carriers to the Gulf. He's ordered the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group to abandon South China operations and move toward the Gulf. 5 to 8 day journey, and this was about 4 days ago. So they should be getting close. More air defense systems, which is meaning THAAD, Patriot batteries, are on the way to Israel and other areas. Fighter jets, possibly submarines, also expected to arrive in the region. Advanced Arleigh craft destroyers equipped with Tomahawk missiles repositioned within striking distance. And also to mention that between 19 to 29 American air refueler tankers have been deployed to the Gulf. So American strike aircraft can refuel and go at it and spend a lot more time over Iran striking targets. This may include also refueling Israeli airplanes. And don't forget, American B-2 bombers are sitting in Diego Garcia in the middle of the Indian Ocean, ready to make the journey. They're not going to be coming from the normal route, which is from America 36 hours. They're going to be coming from here only about 6-7 hours. Anyway. Another dot to consider, Mossad director visits USA for Iran consultations. That means they're getting ready to coordinate what they're going to do. And because he's there, part of it is going to be their surgical strikes inside Iran. The director of Israel Mossad spy agency, David Barnea, arrived in the US on Friday morning, which is last Friday morning, for talks on the situation in Iran, according to Israeli source. It's been 5 days since he was there. Expected to meet in Miami, the White House, Steve Witkoff, who's the managing direct channel between US and Iran. Witkoff was in touch with Abbas Arachi, and that has been cut off now. It's not clear whether Barnea will meet President Trump, but he did not. Driving the news followed the phone call on Wednesday between Trump and Israel Prime Minister about the Iran crisis. During the call, Netanyahu asked to hold off till they get enough interceptors for the Iranian missiles. So that's what they asked to hold off was. So in response, America is shipping Patriot as well as THAAD air defense systems to them, plus more interceptor aircraft to them so they can take down most of their missiles. Witkoff said, now here's what the America is signaling how they view it. With badly stumbling, when Tehran wants to change that, return to the community, it can be accomplished through the alternative, through diplomacy. And if they don't, they're going to have a bad choice. I mean, you can all imagine what that might be. Anyway, at this stage, what I would like to bring to you, a couple of things which we'll be dealing later on. There are apparently 3 centers of global power, and they have done the spheres of influence between America, China, and Russia. But I'd like to bring you to a very interesting place, which is India has given up on Chabahar. And that means Taliban's only focus of where they can go for trade and rest is now through Pakistan. So that's good news for us. And at this stage, I would like to bring in our host, Sher Bano. How are you, Sher Bano?
Alaikum. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. What about you? How are you doing?
I'm fine. How did you like my intro? How did you like the rest?
Yeah, it was good. So, yes, exactly. It was very interesting. So, basically, to understand where the world may be heading, we need to look beyond the isolated headlines and examine how power shifts, security incidents, and technology intersects. So, let's start up with the questions. Are you ready?
I am at your
disposal. All right. So, first, talking about the information warfare and attribution that you talked about earlier. When unverified allegations point towards state intelligence agencies after major attacks, how should media, policymakers, and the public distinguish the fact from geopolitical narrative building?
I think you got to recognize one thing, that the movers will be the states, what they do. And their intelligence agencies have got good idea who does what. Okay. Now, in this case, for example, there was an attack in Kabul where Chinese were living, and that whole Chinese were conducting business also, that
Mhm.
thing was blown up. And nearly everybody knows that this is done with raw help. Now, narrative building, you can go into media, no, you don't have it. Indians, this is all something else, trying to blame us, it could be them. But the
Mhm.
responsibility is the people who are in charge, and they are
Mhm.
allowing raw to do this. And then there was also, Tajikistan also said that uh, the drones which attacked and killed their people and the Chinese were made in India. So it's like Indians are not realizing that they are coming
Mhm.
under the Chinese sphere of influence now. Americans are abandoned in the CPAC. They are not getting in the way of the Chinese. They are cooperating with the Chinese. The Chinese are cooperating with the Americans on the Straits of Hormuz issue. They've got their
Mhm.
streets aligned. We also want Straits of Hormuz open. The only
Exactly.
state which is out of sync with everybody else is India. They're still living in the old order of rules, terrorism and this and that and market. We are a huge big market. Nobody gives a shit for market anymore. You want goods,
Mhm.
come and get them. You don't want goods,
Exactly.
go to someplace else. Like Chinese
Mhm.
refuse to give any manufacturing equipment of cell phones to India. The whole narrative about building, about having a whole this making iPhones in India just collapsed. Gone. So no longer it's that. It is who controls the manufacturing, supply side economics, which Reagan started. That's going to start dominating now. Did I answer your
Mhm.
question?
Yes, exactly. So, continuing with your emerging military technologies that you talked about China. So, basically, do China's electromagnetic and directed energy weapons represents a purely defensive response to modern threats, or just opening new chapter of a global arm race?
I think the first thing in this kind of a race, global arms starts when I've got 10 and they want to get 50. In this case,
Mm-hmm.
Chinese have one and Americans don't have any to make it any. So it won't be a race. Chinese dominate. With
One-sided.
technology
Mm.
and this concept, they're dominating. Now, where
Okay.
will we see first time this thing being used? You and I both know. Potentially
Mm.
Sindhu 2.0.
Okay.
Now, where else can it be used? You know what it is? I'll describe it to you. This agreement. They've got a bunch of coins,
Mm.
metallic coins lined up, and they fire them
Okay.
using electromagnetics, and they can be firing almost like 100 per second, and
Wow.
they can go
Mm.
very far. Now imagine they do this to drones. I mean, the drones are gone. Imagine if they do that to somebody's coming across the lines. I mean, those guys are gone. It's history. This is
Mm.
technology on a
That
level which we have never seen iteration before. I mean,
we
take a
can't
look
even
at
met
the
that. That. Mm.
3000, the microwave drone destroyer, swarm finisher. Look at the HQ-19. I mean, they make the
Mm.
kaboti of the BrahMos stuff coming across. That looks like toys in front of those
Mm.
kind of anti-aircraft. They're more
Yeah, they're
advanced than
out of the
Thar.
world.
Yeah, then they've got the ones which take out. I mean, you start a missile, they take it out. It's called HQ-29. Now, God alone knows
Mm.
what the Chinese have given to the Pakistanis, but the way they're positioning themselves, they rather give it to us and then sell it to the world. I mean,
Mm.
they invest of 10 billion
So
here, but they're going to make 100 billion in sales and about 30 billion in profit. So that's where things are going. And the
so
only
basically,
country,
it's not a race at all. Mm.
I mean, the only country in the region who's not
Uh,
got the message is right next door.
mm.
I think I'm
Exactly.
beginning to get
So,
whining and crying from that. I get it in my inbox, so I'm being nice to them so far. So
all right. Let's come towards the global power shifts. Are we truly entering a tripolar world order dominated by the US, China, and Russia? Or is this framing more narrative driven than reality? particularly in
I,
regions like Africa?
the split has
Just shed
occurred,
some light on that.
and the
Mm-hmm.
Americans have given the go ahead for it because they know they can't defend anybody else. But what I'll say is our next podcast will be on this very topic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and
Okay.
you do know we opened a sister channel, which is Global Conflicts by Sayyid Farah Hussain. And there, what we do is
Uh-huh.
we give out short clips over there, and we
Mm-hmm.
would also try to see how that goes. It's going fine, normal, nothing big deal. But our ones remains one of the mainstream where we do all our podcasts. Okay, so for your information. So
Okay. Uh,
anything
okay.
next?
Can you, yes, can you just talk about, a future world order? Let's talk about it. Looking at power realignments, proxy conflicts, and advanced weapon systems all together. Are we moving towards global stability or more fragmented and unpredictable international systems?
I think we can be very specific. We are moving towards the China Taiwan taking over.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving where Indians probably will miscalculate and come for us too. And that's where we start realignment of the world is going to take place. India is no longer a pivot, neither China, neither America recognizes that. I think the geopolitical importance of Arabs, Europe, India is gone. And I think they have not reconciled to the new roles. Yes, it's an era of wars. They're going to start from all the way from probably even Greenland or probably even Ukraine. Uh, why does America want Greenland? Because if there's a NATO Russia fight, America doesn't want to intervene. But if
Mm-hmm.
Russia decides to go for Greenland, then America would have to intervene outside of NATO, which they don't want to. However, if they have sovereign rights over Greenland, then they don't need to support NATO. They can be on their own. Which leads me to believe that Americans have given up Europe, let Russia provide them the net security. Just like
Mm-hmm.
Americans and Chinese are allowing Pakistan to provide net security for the Gulf and Arab regions. Okay. However,
Okay.
UAE seems to be jumping the gun and running and sitting in Modi's lap. Well, there will be some who will have to be taught a lesson. And apparently, the hot air in the system, somebody has to take it out. And I think sometimes it's
Exactly.
taken out by their kinetic forces. So we are entering area of not restabilization. We are entering the era of conflicts. Once the era of conflicts settles down, then you're going to get some post-war World War II stability. Right now, it's in a flux, and countries are doing stupid things. Oh, we don't adhere to the Indus Water Treaty. I mean, serious repercussions for that. So they still have this aura about themselves that they're huge, big, and this and that. And the problem is the world has moved on. We have to be very careful. If you've got the military might, you will get respected. If you don't have military might, you will be subjugated. So, and
All
with
right.
that, should
So,
we call it a day?
all right. Thanks for your thoughtful and wonderful discussion. And hopefully, our audience are now able to make sense of an increasingly interconnected and uncertain world. So, thanks for having me as well. All yours.
And thanks for those wonderful questions. Thank you. Bye.